Hello toy collecting fans, Universal Toy Collector here, and welcome to the channel. And welcome to episode 3 of My Collecting Life, where I get to speak to you, members of the toy collecting community, about your own personal collections and asking why you got collecting in the first place and what gives you that toy collecting buzz. Before I get my next guest on, let's have a look in a musical montage of some of his collection. Okay, so wow, what a fantastic collection. And those are just a few of the photos that I was sent. Some of you may or may not know him. Some of you may or may not recognize him. But this is what you get when you cross Boba Fett and Corporal Dwayne Hicks. I'd like to welcome to the channel Mark, also known as BobaHicks. How you doing, my friend? All good?
How's it going, Stu? How you keeping?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Like I say, it's been a while since we've actually spoken face to face. So thank you very much for taking time out to do this. Awesome stuff.
Delighted to be here, man. Honored to join you.
No, it's marvelous stuff. Marvelous. So basically, as always, I have 10 questions to ask you. Run time's about an hour or so. So take your time with the questions, and I'm sure it's going to be an awesome chat. So straight in with the first question. What are your memories as a kid playing with toys, and what toy lines were you into?
Right. Well, from being really little and being like, toddler level of child, I remember playing a lot with Thomas the Tank Engine. That was like a major thing for me as a child.
Okay.
It's like my first kind of show or cartoon that I have any real memory of. And then it's my first kind of branded toys that I can think of would be Thomas the Tank Engine. I think it was
Wow.
Bertel released all those die casts,
That's
kind of
it.
small
Yeah.
little trains, and I
That's
just, it was kind of, I always remember kind of going to the toy shop with my folks and then getting me these tiny little Thomas the Tank Engine trains. Like I loved
Wow,
it.
that's awesome.
But yeah, that was kind of like my first toy love. But as I got older and progressing on a bit, Ninja Turtles,
Okay.
Transformers were a major thing for me growing up, just because I loved the cartoon, even though it wasn't even airing on TV by the time I was
Yeah.
growing up. I just got to see it because through the video shops, they just had a ton of Transformers videos on the shelves. So I think it was like 50p or something like that to rent.
Oh, wow.
2 tapes back in the day. So my folks would often rent a couple of Transformers videos, and yeah, I just loved it. And then of course through the cartoons and shows you get introduced to the toys, and
Okay.
yeah, it just took off from there.
So, what era did you grow up then? That must have been the 90s, because I remember Thomas the Tank Engine, because I bought those for my little boy when he was a kid, and they still had the die-cast metal ones. They still do those. I've seen
Yes,
them actually in Smith's Toys. They're still doing those
they
Thomas
do.
the
They
Tank
still
Engine games.
exist. They
Yeah.
still exist. Yeah. So I was born in '86. So even though I was
Okay.
born in the '80s, yeah, I essentially grew up in the
The
'90s. So I
90s.
kind of had like
Yeah.
yeah a foot in each decade, so to speak. But I suppose a lot of the stuff from the '80s was still kind of on the go during the '90s anyway.
Yeah.
Like and plus I had three older brothers, so
Okay.
I was just kind of aware of a lot of stuff from what they were into. Like there was Return of the Jedi figures already in my house, like when I was growing up, and stuff that was kind of hand me downs from them. Like so, when it came to toys, like there was no shortage of toys in the house. Um, the only thing I kind of remember mainly being weird as a kid, like with toys, was because the stuff that I was kind of watching was on video and it wasn't
Yeah.
actually, I suppose, kind of current. It was tough finding toys, especially Transformers toys, because I'm watching the show and there's Optimus Prime, Megatron, and all the kind of main characters, but they weren't on the shelves in like
Yeah.
1992 or 1993 or
Was
whatever.
that?
Like it was all like Action Masters and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
it was just what I was seeing, and then what was on the shelves kind of just wasn't the same thing. Wasn't until later on with kind of G2 and stuff in the '90s I was able to
Okay.
start getting my hands on stuff that actually looked like what I was watching on TV.
So you were watching the original G1 Transformers.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
That was my
Cool.
yeah, no, I was addicted to G1 Transformers as a cartoon. Like I really like
Yeah.
those videos were rented from the shop like every weekend. I just watched like and like when I would get through all the videos from one of the shops, I'd be begging my dad to go to one of the other video shops to see if there's any different different episodes, anything I could rent. Like, just loved the show. Really loved it.
So what did you make? This is just a totally different question here, but what did you think of the War for Cybertron trilogy?
I
How
thought
did
it
you
was
find
pretty
that?
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought it was pretty good. It was a bit serious. I suppose it had to be serious. I guess it's kind of like that Masters of the Universe Revelations. I think they expect the audience is going to be older,
Yeah.
so they kind of put the tone a little bit darker, which is fine. It was good. It was good. Like, I'll always prefer probably the G1 over anything else in
Yeah.
Transformers. But look, it was definitely enjoyable. And look, it gave us great toys as well. Like I have a
Oh,
ton of those
definitely.
War for
Yeah.
Cybertron toys. Like I love them,
Definitely.
absolutely love them.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed that as well. I did enjoy that. So when did you become aware then that you were actually a toy collector? Did you stick with toys all the way through your teens, or did you stop, or did you carry on with toys? Because I know a lot of
I'm
people they
stuck.
stop.
Yeah, no, I kept kind of up with toys all the way through. The only thing that changed was when I started hitting my teens. I wasn't playing with toys, but I
Yeah.
was still picking up toys. And at that point, I had a bookshelf in my room, so I had kind of gotten into like, buying something, opening it, putting it on a shelf. Then maybe a couple of years later, when Star Wars Power of the Force was kind of like the main toy on the shelves, me and one of my friends from school started collecting those, and we made the decision not to open them. And we were only about maybe 13 or something at the time. So that was pretty early on to be kind of saying, look, I'm actually collecting these just to have them. Like, I think
Yeah.
so at that point I'd say I was well, and even as young as that, I was kind of hanging on to stuff and
Wow.
looking after things.
Wow. Did you collect the whole line of the Power of the Force, or did you just select the ones that you liked and pass on the rest? Or
I got between the two of us, because it's kind of funny when you're a kid, like you almost kind of share collections. Like me and my mate,
mm,
like we just bought whatever we could that was kind of available locally. But all we really knew about at the time was whatever was in the shop and what you could see on the back of the card. So there was Power to Force figures I didn't even know existed until I was older, like just with the internet
yeah,
and stuff like that, as you
yeah,
got to know. So we bought a lot of stuff, but I don't think I would have been close to ever completing the line. Probably closer to that now as an adult. Like,
oh
but like
really?
back then, not a chance. Like, yeah, we were pretty good at getting the figures because you could buy them still with pocket money or
Yeah,
allowance. vehicles were mostly out of the question. Though I was treated to the Millennium Falcon. I think
Oh,
that was
okay.
Christmas '96, maybe. I was treated to that. It was like the big toy for
Yeah.
me that year, like, so yeah, I was definitely heavy on the Power of the
So
Force back then.
that would have been your first sort of dibble dabble into Star Wars, then I'm assuming.
Yeah, Power the Force and Micro Machines
Oh, okay. Yeah.
simultaneously were my
Yeah.
first. And like I mentioned earlier, because I had older brothers, there was vintage kind of Star Wars in the house.
Yeah.
So I was always kind of aware of Star Wars as a thing. Like I knew a fair amount about it even before I started getting into it properly as a fan.
Yeah.
And I think it was Empire Strikes Back. No, Empire Strikes Back was definitely the first Star Wars film I watched from beginning to end, and
Okay.
I was kind of hooked just from there. Like, it
Yeah.
didn't matter that I watched them out of sequence. I knew I had to see what was happening either side of that. Like, I just
Yeah.
loved
Yeah.
it.
Awesome. Awesome. So at the moment, with your collecting, what would you class as your main focal point of your collection? So is there one specific thing that you just want to collect, or are you just happy collecting all sorts of bits and bobs?
I suppose, like, look, you've seen the pictures I've sent in that, and
Mm,
I have a lot of Transformers. Like at the moment, uh, yeah, sort of like there's like three full cabinets of Transformers behind me, which I think is the most kind of thing of any kind of genre or category in my collection. Transformers seems to be taking up the most display space at the moment.
yeah.
But I suppose my three big kind of heavy hitters would be Transformers, Ninja Turtles, and Star Wars. Star Wars kind of went quiet for a good few years with me. I drifted off it a bit. I'd sold a lot of my stuff, but now in the last probably year and a half, I just seem to have kind of gotten into the swing of Star Wars again. And with Star
Yeah.
Wars, like there's so much of it anyway. You can never just kind of
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I'm just going to collect a little bit here and there." It balloons up pretty quick, like.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. So I take it you don't collect GI Joe at all then, or is that something
No,
you're
no, I haven't
running
collected
into?
GI Joe. Not since I was a kid. I did have a fair amount of GI Joe stuff as a kid, and I still picked up bits and pieces here and there, but I never had enough as an adult collector to say, look, yeah, I collect GI Joe, and
Yeah.
looking at the prices of GI Joe stuff now, I don't know if it's a good time to be
Is that
getting into it.
would that be classifieds, or would that be the retro
Oh
line that
man,
you?
even looking at the I like looking at the vintage stuff because the thing about GI Joe, kind of like Transformers, the show wasn't airing on TV when I was
Yeah.
growing up, even though the
Mm,
toys were on the shelves. So I picked up a lot of those toys with no context or knowledge really of the characters beyond what you'd read on the back of the pack.
yeah.
So I never really had that same kind of real nostalgia or love for Joe. Like Joe for me, I don't know if you remember, there was a toy line by Leonard called the Core. It's very
Yes.
similar
Yeah.
to
I've seen
GI
those.
Joe
Yeah.
3 3/4 inch. Like
Yeah.
I would have bought both those and GI Joe, and to me they were just kind of interchangeable. Like they were different
Yeah.
brands, but they were essentially the same toy to me because I had no cartoon or no comic or anything to really link them to. So to me they were just kind of generic, army
Yeah.
guys with cool looking vehicles and stuff.
Yeah. This one I was going to say. That's one line that I've never really got into the Army Corps. I mean, for me, it was when I was a kid. It was like I said many times before. It was predominantly Star Wars, and it was mainly my friend. He was an only child. He had like all the Star Wars stuff. He had the Transformers, and he had the GI Joe. I had a few Master of the Universe figures, but that would be something that I'd play with on my own at home. I wouldn't sort of like go around with mates and play Master of the Universe or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I guess He-Man would have been around at that time for you as well, would he? Or was that just sort of like fading
Yeah,
out?
so He-Man cartoon was still on TV. The Filmation one used to be on very early in the morning, I remember. Might have
Yeah,
even been on one of your BBC channels. Um, but I was a big fan of the 1989 Dolph Lundgren He-Man movie, and then
oh, you
the
were
like
you?
1990s New Adventures of He-Man, which now like the Dolph Lundgren movie I can still watch. I can enjoy it in its own right. It's
Yeah.
like a a guilty pleasure. But the New Adventures of He-Man cartoon, I tried rewatching some of that recently, and I just thought it was terrible. It was pretty
No,
bad. Like
I've not seen that. I mean, I like because I was like grew up in the '80s, so I had Masters of the Universe on or He-Man on at the time, and for then I thought it was like really good. I mean, I look back now and watch it, and it is a little bit sort of like cheesy and stuff like that. But I was expecting the film to be of the same sort of mold as the cartoon, the animated series, and when it wasn't, I was like, oh, okay. So it's not one of my favorite films. Let's put it that way. But did you watch Revelations?
I watched some of Revelations. I just wasn't
Yeah.
really feeling it. Like it just, look, maybe it's a little bit of that being influenced by what you hear before you really get into something. I think Revelations was
Yeah.
poisoned for me before I even began watching it. So then
Oh,
it was
really?
harder for me to get into. I only really got 2 episodes in. And I was like, I don't think I'll kind of carry on with it. Now, that's not to say that I'll never finish off watching it. Like I might
Yeah.
someday
Yeah.
just be in the humor to pop it on and watch it, but I just wasn't big into it. I did like the look of the figures though. Like they looked
Yeah.
really good. Like the
The
design
figures. The
looks
figures are
good
good.
and
Yeah.
the animation looks really nice. The character
Yeah.
designs, I just wasn't feeling it from, a show
Yeah.
to watch type of.
Well, it was like Cybertron. I mean, the figures are great. The animation was great. Yes, the storyline was a little bit darker and probably made for, I would say, the people our age who grew up with the G1 Transformers. And I felt the same way as well with the Revelations. The figures are great. The animation was great. Storyline. I mean, I watched both seasons. Storyline wasn't great. Every time I heard Skeletor, I just thought of the Joker because of Mark Hamill, and Lena Headey was Evelyn, and she just sounded like Cersei Lannister. So there was no, and every time I saw it, it was like, oh god. But I wish that they would, when they do something new with, or not do something new, when they bring something back from the 80s and something like that, they stay true to it. They stay true to the characters. They don't put on all this woke stuff. They don't. I know times have changed, but you've got different series and programs that kids can watch that incorporate all that stuff. It doesn't hurt to have something original and the same, and the characters are the same and stuff like that. I do find that annoying when they get something from the 80s and then put it into this like sort of generation and they tinker with it to make it more. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I'd be inclined to agree. It's getting to the point now where a lot of this stuff that we like, it's been around now for so long. Like a lot of the stuff that we're into, you're coming up on 30-year, 40-year-old franchises now.
Mm.
And I don't know, sometimes I think it's easier just to compartmentalize what you do like and then just kind of separate it away from everything else. I think with Revelations in particular, a big problem was that in the publicity surrounding it before it came out, they were making out like it was going to be a direct sequel to the classic cartoon, to the old
Yeah,
Filmation cartoon.
yeah,
So a lot of people, myself included, were kind of like, "Oh, well, that's interesting to see that they're actually going to try and do an actual sequel to an old
yeah,
cartoon
yeah,
from the '80s." But then, right before it hit, Kevin Smith or whoever came out and said, "Oh no, that's actually not the case. It's going to be its own thing." I think even then, because they'd kind of raised expectations of it being, a certain type of thing, and then all of a sudden it's just
yeah.
like, oh no, it's actually something else, and people were just
Mm.
like, nah, I'm not sure on this. It was a lukewarm kind of response almost right out of the gate.
Yeah. I mean, I thought I'd give it a chance because I mean, I've sort of not had a go at people, but I've had discussions with people at work about like the Book of Boba Fett or Obi-Wan Kenobi, and they're dishing it after the first episode. And I think, oh, come on, you got to look at the bigger picture. The story's being told over 6 episodes, so you've got to give it to the 6 episodes. I mean, yes, some of the Book of Boba Fett was quite painful to watch in certain aspects for me, but I think you've got to watch the whole series before you can actually then give a fair assessment and a judgment of it. And
Yeah.
so that's what I did with Revelations. Like I say, the animation was fantastic. The figures are great, and yeah, that's everything else. Well, can't really do much about that, can you? So there you are.
No, no.
Right, moving on. What is, or what would you class as the most treasured part of your collection? So, if something that you had to take with you, one thing, what would it be?
It would be a G1 Optimus Prime but I don't know which G1 Optimus Prime. If I had time to open that cabinet behind me, like if the house was about to blow up and I had time to just like get the cabinet open, I'd try and get the one. I have a complete Prime with all its bits still in its box, instructions, the whole shebang. I just love it, even though it's not a childhood one or anything. It's one I picked up as an adult collector, but
Yeah,
it's like a. I just love it. It's a great piece. I do still have a pretty battered kind of Prime from childhood that I picked up in the '90s that for nostalgic reasons. Um,
yeah.
I suppose I could probably slip that in my pocket. I'll cheat here and I'll just grab two Primes. I'll get my boxed one and I'll get my busted up childhood one, and I'm out the door.
I mean,
Hopefully, my
I think
wife
it's
and
great
cats
that.
make it out of the house.
Oh, so you get your Transformers first then before the wife and cats.
Well, you never mentioned anything else, you know.
This is true. Yeah, yeah. I don't want a trick question, but what I do find quite charming is that people do actually have their own childhood vehicles from Star Wars, Transformers, or whatever it may be, and yes, they're worn, they're old, they're battered, they've been played with, and that's exactly what they were meant to do back in those days. I mean, I mean, if I had all my original Star Wars stuff, then yeah, I would love it. But I haven't. I've had to collect it all again, and it's the same with the Transformers and stuff like that. But yeah, if I would love to have kept my original Star Wars stuff just to say there it is. It's on display. It's been used. It's been played with. Now I think people are really sort of like. I mean, the stuff I've got is in good condition, so I'm quite lucky with that. But I think people are very particular with what they collect and stuff like that, and it's got to look good on the shelf. It's got to be pristine and stuff like that. But there's something charming for me about something that's been sort of like saved or you bought years ago that's been played with. I think that's great. That's great.
There's
Right.
a real charm to it, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely for sure. Do you have a Grail piece? Is there something that you want that, and I would say pay over the odds for, but is there something that you would say, yes, I definitely want that, regardless of the cost?
That I don't have
Yeah, that you don't
already.
have, but you do want, or you would want.
That is a toughie. If off the top of my head, I would say a vintage Playmates Technodrome from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Well, okay.
I turned down a few, what in hindsight were great deals for them, like about 5, 6 years ago now. And since then, the prices have gone ridiculous. If you want one that's in, respectable condition and with all the parts, because there is a ton of parts with it. And I like, with all due respect, I know you like putting together stuff over a long period of time, and I can do that myself in some
Yeah.
cases. But I would really prefer with the Technodrome if I could get one in really good condition, complete. But some of the prices, they would. So maybe it's not a Grail piece in the sense that it is still, available. Like I could go out and buy one now. It would sting
Yeah.
a lot,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I always seem to be putting it on the long finger. But there's stuff I have now in the collection that I consider a Grail piece. Like that Unicron you can probably see behind me there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That my wife got me for Christmas. Like that's a big deal. I didn't think I'd have any type of Unicron in my collection, especially after missing out on the HasLab one.
Yeah.
Even stuff like I've a Palatoy Slave one, still with the box, still with
Oh,
everything,
wow.
totally
Really?
complete. The actual
Oh,
Palatoy
how
box,
cool.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Awesome.
was a big deal to get that as well and get everything.
Yeah.
Especially seeing the price of some of them now. Um, so they're just like, yeah, Grail's weird. Like I could probably name a few more random kind of big play sets and stuff like the Jurassic Park Kenner play set from the '90s would be a big one. But it's, you know, when you said would you pay any price, I don't know if I would pay any price these days at the moment for anything really. I
Yeah.
just where I am, the headspace I'm at the moment, it's more kind of I'm being a bit conservative with what I'm buying. Like so, it's not too many big ticket items or Grail pieces on my mind at the
Yeah.
moment.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, crikey. Yeah. I mean, I've been in the same boat as things that I've seen. I went to Echo Live last year, and one of my Grail pieces would be a vintage A-wing from the Kenner line. But there was one boxed, and it was in one of those acrylic cases. I think that was going for about $3,000, and I just no, no. There's got to be. There's obviously a time where you've got to think, okay, right, no, I wouldn't pay that as much. I'd love that in my collection.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to pay. I mean, my, I mean, I've got the barge. I mean, we missed out on the HasLab in the UK on the barge, and I know a few people were lucky enough to get it, but I got mine from the States on eBay. Now it costs enough as it is, but then you've got shipping on top of that, and you've got import tax on top of that as well. And it really does sort of bump the price up, and it kind of puts me off buying anything from the States. So
Yeah.
the shipping costs. I mean, Stan Solo, he does that the vintage style slave layer. Now, yeah,
Yes.
I'd love one, but it was I think it was $30-40, but then it was $60 shipping, and I just thought, so a figure that's probably about 40-30 pound, you're paying over 100 quid or something like that, or whatever the conversion rate is. So I am with you on that. It does get a bit expensive, and I suppose you've got to watch your pennies these days. Definitely. Just talking of pennies,
You
how I was.
you get hit
Sorry.
by a sorry to interrupt. I was just going to ask, do you get taxed for importing stuff from the States? Like if you are buying from the States, do you have to pay an import tax on that?
It depends how. It depends on the value of the item. Yeah, I had to pay import tax, and it was a lot. It was a lot. It was treble figures.
I was
Let's put
just
it that
thinking
way.
that for that barge, I'd say that was a pretty penny.
It was a pretty penny, yeah. And I
But worth it.
look back
But
now
worth
and
it.
think it, yeah, it. I see. The way I look at things is something's only worth what you're willing to pay for it. So I paid the price for it, as in like what it was worth on eBay. So I was happy to pay that. But then I got quite a shock when I found out. I was like, oh shit, I've got to pay import tax, and then postage and packaging as well. And I was like, ah. So you're almost in a way doubling what I paid for it in the first place, on top of, and I. So to me, if I ever sold that, I would be looking at pretty much roughly around about the mark I paid for it, because I know that I won't get the full amount that I'd want for it, but around about that mark, that's what I'd be looking to get if I ever decided to sell it. But like I say, things are only worth what someone's willing to pay for it. I mean, I've seen
Yeah.
figures on eBay for so much, and I think I'm not willing to pay that much money. And then I come off, and then I look again a few weeks later, and I see the same figure for a lesser price. So I think, well, and like I say, I've been quite lucky with the quality of the vehicles and figures I've managed to get on eBay. But as I was going to ask you, I was never into turtles, so I would have no idea about how much that Terradrome, or was it Technodrome?
Technodrome, yeah.
Yeah, I would have no idea how much that would be.
Well, the last one I was looking at, that wasn't even in like it was in decent condition with most of the
Yeah,
parts. They were still looking over $1,000 for it, and I was just like, no way, like no.
wow.
It's essentially a big sphere on tank tracks. That's the design of it as a vehicle.
Yeah,
It's the bad guy's
yeah.
main vehicle, and they're kind of base. But it's also made of grey plastic as well. So a lot of the ones you do see, the plastic is really badly yellowed, which and
Oh,
and like
really?
it goes like I'm talking like it's almost going green. Some of the yellow in the plastic you
All
see,
right.
and people are still asking a lot of big bucks for
We've
it.
lost
I'm
him for a
just
little
like,
bit.
no, no,
There he
I
is.
can't justify that.
Yeah.
Like.
No,
Like if
fair
it was in
enough. Fair enough.
pristine, great condition and had all the pieces, okay, I can start talking higher prices. But if you're giving me this kind of yellowed, moldy, missing loads of stuff, broken bits, and you're still charging me an
Yeah.
arm and a leg, I'm like, no, no, thanks.
No, no. I mean, yeah, you've got to get a decent. If you're going to pay that amount of money, it's got to look good in my eyes. So, like some of the photos you sent me are fantastic, especially the ones that you do and you put on your Instagram channel. What got you into the photographing your figures in the first place? And did you have any sort of like people that inspired you to do that?
Well, I'll tell you, like way back in the day, you might remember this. There used to be an official Star Wars magazine. They definitely sold it in the UK because they sold it in Ireland.
Okay.
And in the 90s, I think it would have been 97, it was around the time the special editions Star Wars trilogy was
Yeah.
coming out, I had an issue of it, and they had an interview with the guy who took all the photos for Kenner to kind of set up their products in a way, say like, so when you get the AT-AT and it's in the vintage
Oh yeah.
AT-AT and it's in its box
Yeah.
and there's that whole
Yeah.
battle scene going on in the background.
Yeah. Yeah.
They had a kind of interview with the guy who would have taken all those photos, and it showed his studio and the setup, and he had a massive like diorama setup that like covered like most of the studio with all these Kenner AT-ATs and snow speeders.
Awesome.
I was awesome. Like I was, and that
Yeah.
always stuck with me, even though I was a kid, kind of looking at that. I
Yeah.
was like, that would be a really cool thing to be able to kind of take toys and make it look like they're almost coming off the screen. But where it started with where I am now with Instagram and posting pictures of toys, I'm a big NECA collector, as you probably know. I collect a lot of NECA stuff,
Yeah.
and back in 2016, they were running a competition I saw on their website where it was just like essentially take pictures of naked toys from your collection, and if you tag them, you can win toys or figures or whatever they'd send you. The only thing is, in order to enter, you needed to have, I think it was either Instagram or Twitter, and I didn't have
Okay.
any at the time. So I just like, right. So
Yeah.
I signed up to Instagram, took a few photos, tagged NECA in the photos, didn't win the competition or anything, but you know how it works with social media, because I'd
Yeah.
tagged a toy company in a post, all of a sudden I was getting loads of suggestions for other toy pages and stuff like that. So it didn't take me
Mm.
too long to get I suppose kind of sucked into this kind of world of toy companies, and then from that, other toy collectors, and then shortly after that, people who are actually photographing their toys, and not just taking photos of them on display or showing off what
Yeah.
they got, but actually taking toys, either building a diorama that looks like a movie set, or bringing them outside to a location and using practical effects or just perspective or whatever trickery you can use to try and make it look like it's
Yeah.
not actually a toy, but something that's possibly, real, or something you'd see in a movie. And, you know, when it comes to who inspired me to do it, I don't know, because there's so many brilliant accounts on Instagram that do that type of thing, toy photography,
Mm.
that would blow my stuff out of the water. Like my stuff would be real amateur hour compared to some of the stuff you'd see on the bigger accounts. I don't go trying to like blow my toys up with fireworks or anything just to get an explosive
Yeah.
effect or stuff like that.
Yeah.
I try to keep it mainly chill, like in the back garden. But
Would that
yeah, that's how it
would
all
that be
started.
something you'd
So
be
it was
willing to
me
do?
essentially entering the NECA competition got me
Yeah.
started on Instagram.
I was going to say, would that be something that you'd be tempted to try, getting some like little bangers and doing stuff like that in the garden, or would your wife not be too happy with that?
Look, I could try it.
Blowing holes
I
in her
don't
lawn.
know if I. You see, the thing is, I like all my toys. Generally, like all the toys I have are toys I like. So
Yeah.
I just wouldn't want to risk anything happening to them. Like even
That's fair enough. Yeah.
like to say, for example, even now at the moment, if I've had the wind knock toys over out the back garden when I've been setting them up for a shot, and like had them smash on rocks, break, like
Oh
it's
wow.
kind of like it comes with the territory. But so like, yeah, I don't want to be setting off fireworks or burning anything. It's
that's,
bad enough, like.
yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I didn't think about that. But so, where did you get the idea to mix your figures in your photos? Because I'll tell you why. I've got a couple here to show. There you go. I mean, that is. I mean, you say that it's amateur. That looks absolutely fantastic, Mark. That really does. That is pretty cool. I like
Well,
that.
look, I appreciate you saying that, and like, yeah, I do like this picture, but the way I look at it, Stu, right, and I do appreciate the compliment, but look at those figures. Like those figures are so well sculpted and well detailed already.
Yeah.
Like it'd be pretty hard to make those figures look bad. So they're kind of doing half the job for me straight away.
Yeah.
Like, when you have
Yeah.
something that looks that good, it's kind of doing a lot of legwork for you.
Definitely. Well,
But when it
yeah.
comes to like, mixing stuff, as in like kind of mixing different genres together or mixing toys with each
Yeah.
other, that's a direct kind of carry over from my childhood. Like when I was a kid, I mixed toys around, Turtles would be with Transformers, Star
Yeah.
Wars, G.I. Joe. I always mixed and matched anyway. I'm not afraid of a good crossover, even if it makes
Yeah.
absolutely no sense.
No, no, no. We've got another one here. I mean, again, that is, it's just that does it looks really good, and I know the toys are like more detailed and stuff like that. But how you've got it set up, the lighting and everything like that. I mean, that's not the toys doing that, Mark. That's you, mate.
Oh well, look, man. Once again, you know, I'm blushing here, but look, thank you, and like, yeah. Well, look, as with that photo was team effort there because all those foot soldiers are trying hard.
Yeah,
They're putting the effort in to bring down this dino. That was, I
yeah. But
think,
that's awesome, man.
that's near the
That
start of
really is.
lockdown. I think in 2020,
Oh,
it
okay.
was
Yeah,
really kind of because I can't, yourself. Look, it's like you when you're trying to do your YouTube videos. You work a day job as well, so
yeah,
I'd love to be out every day, setting up shots and getting photos done. And I was able to do that a lot during the start of pandemic because
yeah.
everybody was at home. There was nothing to do. The weather was freakishly good, and I just started like just banging stuff out. Oh, here's something
I
new
mean,
here.
I mean that. I mean the coloring that is just. I mean, that is my favorite. That is just
That's probably one
that's
of my
amazing.
favorites. I think I actually have that as
Yeah.
my Twitter wallpaper at the moment. Yeah, I'll tell you
Okay.
what that is, Stu. That's the inside of my oven in the kitchen. You can probably tell
Really?
looking at it.
No, I wouldn't have
You
known
can
that
see
because I
like
can see
those.
the elements now. Yeah, yeah, or the tray holders or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and the kind of lighting I think was a red LED light and just a blue LED light that were kind of magnetized, so they're stuck up the top above where the alien queen is,
yeah, yeah,
and I think the alien that's crawling on the wall there, that's
yeah.
from Korupikia, which, as you know,
Okay. Yeah.
all their figures they have like magnetized bases. So I was able to
Yes.
kind of stick them to the inside of the metal oven, like so. Yeah, it did the
That is
trick for
that
that
is
picture.
genius. I'm not going to be able to look at that in the same light now. Now I know it's an oven. That is you kind of ruined the
Yeah,
illusion for
it's
me
an
now.
oven. Yeah.
Yeah, but that is amazing. I mean, I'd be too embarrassed to do the side of my oven. It's yeah, I need to clean it first, but that is
Yeah, well, mine
yeah,
was
that is
pretty
definitely my
grimy, so
favourite.
it added to the aesthetic.
Yeah, I guess yeah, but that is and so what stormtroopers are they? Are they Black Series?
Air Black series, yeah.
Yeah, and what
They're
about the
from
Queen
the
Alien? Is that
2015 release.
yeah? And the eggs and the rest of the aliens are they all the same make or
They're all NECA, yeah. So the big alien
NECA?
queen is a NECA, and then the two kind of
Yeah,
warriors standing either side of her are all NECA. The eggs are NECA, and yeah, then just one Coda Bakia guy on the wall there.
yeah, fantastic, mate. Seriously, don't do yourself any justice. They are great pieces, really great
Thanks, man. I
photos.
really appreciate it.
So, right, I think you've probably answered this question already because you said you don't have the time because you've got a job and stuff like that. But would you ever consider starting a YouTube channel?
Maybe. Like, I suppose the question is, would anybody want to watch me on YouTube? Like,
Well,
I,
if we all
I, I
thought
don't
that,
know.
then we wouldn't be doing it.
True, true, yeah. But like, there's so much great talent out there already, Stuart, especially now that you've joined the fray.
Well, listen,
Um,
I wouldn't class myself as a talent. I'm just doing this for the fun of doing it, and because, like you, I got bored. And then I wanted to show my collection and stuff like that. And I mean, I know I just talk shit a lot of the time. But it's thanks to people like yourself and Chris and Bob and Scuba Pete and all you guys on Instagram. I mean, you're the reason why I'm doing this. So I need to thank you guys really more so than you thank me or whatever. But yeah,
no, look, loving your stuff, man, and I think a lot of us would say the same thing. I kind of had a feeling maybe I know you'd appeared already, like you were doing the thing with Scuba Pete as well. You had done a
yeah,
couple of episodes of that, but I think around the time I saw your collection video on Chris's channel or on Chasing 80s Toys channel, I kind of knew like yeah, this guy would make a good YouTuber, especially with the like you've so much stuff.
yeah. But the
You
thing
could
is,
just there's a variety of topics just right there you could do. I better turn the light on here actually. It seems to be getting very dark. There we go.
there you are. We can see you. Yeah,
Yeah.
the thing is, it's like if it I mean, we got chatting. I think it was 2020 on the Michael Mercy roundtable. So that's how I got
Yeah.
to meet you guys. So you know, for me that was my first sort of like dip into YouTube, or being on YouTube chatting and stuff like that. And then I sort of like started back up work again. I didn't have the time to sort of like really do anything, and kind of lost contact with you guys. And then Scuba Pete sort of like messaged out the blue, asked how I was doing. I was like, yeah, great. He said, do you want to be on Instagram? Now, for me at the time, social media probably wasn't my best friend. I mean, I come off Facebook, come off Twitter. I was getting into all sorts of disagreements with people about all sorts of shit. I didn't know these people. So I just, you know what? It's a stress-free life. I'm loving this. And then Pete said, well, you don't have to say anything. You just come on. You can just look and stuff like that. Maybe post a picture or two, and got chatting and got into it. And I was like, yeah, great. And then I think it was beginning of the year or somewhere around that time, Pete said about putting my collection on Chris Miwar's channel. So that's what I did. And then now I've got all the sort of tools and stuff like that. Then yeah, I've started my own channel. I didn't realize at the time how much time it would take. I mean, it does take a lot of time. It is time consuming, but it's good fun. I'm doing it for the fun of it, and like, you know, you've got an amazing collection as well. So, and I think you probably got more depth to your collection than I have with your different bits and bobs. So I think you would make a good YouTuber.
Oh well, look, you know, if I can get a charisma transplant, maybe, and
Well, listen, we've all got to start somewhere. I mean, listen, I hate the way I sound when I listen to myself, and I look and do I sound like that? I'm like, oh, geez. But anyway, I think you'd make a great YouTuber. Okay, so
who knows?
next
Someday,
question.
maybe.
Maybe. Well, you'd have my support anyway, definitely. If you had to choose one toy line to collect only, what would it be? And I think I already know the answer to this one as well.
You see, I know what you're expecting me to say. Like, it might
You're
not
going to
be
prove
that
me wrong
though.
now, aren't you? Any
Huh?
what? I was going to say you're going to prove me wrong now. What was you going to say?
So the one, so I can continue on just keeping this or keep collecting this one toy line,
You can
past, present, or
continue with just
future.
one toy line. That's it in the future. No other toy lines existed. This was, well, I would say no other toy lines existed. Otherwise, you'd only collect that one toy line. But if you could
Yeah.
only collect one toy line.
Well, okay, so the obvious answer would be Transformers,
Yeah,
but
that's obvious. Yeah.
if it was purely like a modern property that I had to choose, because the toy line I enjoy collecting the most these days is probably Masters of the Universe Origins. Like, I mean, like, I
Okay.
genuinely love picking them up. They're
Yeah.
affordable, they're easily available, they're colorful. There's no hassle like picking up. I can walk into shops and find them. It's a really enjoyable toy line to collect. Do I love it as much as Transformers? If I could only collect that, I don't know. Okay, look, yeah, I'm just going to with Transformers. You know, there's too much there to give up. So yeah, you're probably
That's
right there.
fair enough. Yeah, I kind of knew that. Well, I mean, I've got one last question to ask you, but it seems a shame to sort of, because this is a great conversation. I'm going to ask it anyway, so you can take as much time as you want answering this. What does your collection mean to you?
Well, I think these days it's maybe as much about the space that the collection is in as opposed to just the collection itself. So I work from home now pretty much all the time. Like, I'm full time working from home. It was never like that before the pandemic. And I have to say, when I'm like where I'm sitting right now, like, this is where I work in my day job now. And I have to tell you, like, sitting in your job but being surrounded by all this, it doesn't really feel as much like you are in your job. Like, it's like being surrounded by all this stuff that you just love. And then even outside of work hours, like, you know, once I'm done at work, laptop's closed, put away, tables folded up, then I just love being in this space that's just, I used to call the room the one man escape pod because I used to just come in here because it was quiet. It's at the other side of the house. there's just a kind of a blissful peacefulness to it as well. So the collection is obviously part of that though, because you're surrounded by stuff that you love, like, and you just love picking
Yeah,
up stuff. Like especially during my work day, I'm always fiddling with Transformers and just messing, kind of getting ideas for maybe going out on maybe lunch or after work to get a couple of photos, maybe, So yeah, no, I just it's the place as much as the things that are doing it for me at the moment. And what does the collection mean to me? Like, oh, look, it's nearly like my childhood up until now. Because apart from the Transformers, like apart from that Optimus Prime, like I have
yeah,
Ninja Turtles in that cabinet that would still be the same Ninja Turtles like my folks bought me as a kid. Like, so there's memories, and there's a lot of emotion and stuff from my childhood all the way up now until my adulthood, and
yeah.
it's all kind of confined to this one little 10 by 10 foot room. Like, but I love it. Like, I absolutely love it. And like, I think I mentioned to you, and when we were kind of messaging about doing this chat before, I was like, oh, it's a small room, and I am actually kind of looking at the moment. We do have a garage attached to this house that's largely just used for kind of junk. You know how these things go with garages and sheds and stuff.
Yeah.
It could potentially be repurposed to make a big collection room in the future. But even if it was, like, I don't think I could ever ditch this room now as it is. Like if I was making a collection room out there, that'd be for like a new collection. Like that's just to keep going
Oh, right.
expanding.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
like in here, like I love this little box room. It's just my little cozy keep. I got my recliner here. It's just I watch loads
Yeah.
of cartoons and play video games. I just yeah, love it, love it.
Well, when we were having that conversation, and you said that it was all in one small room, I was amazed. I thought it was over a couple of rooms, and I thought the room that it was bigger. So I was pretty amazed that you've got all that in one room, and how you displayed it. I think it's fantastic. I've seen your photos. I'm going to put some more on for the outro, definitely, and some more of your photography and stuff like that. But I've got to say, you've got an amazing collection. You've got a good uh, assortment of your things. I love your NECA aliens. I think they look absolutely fantastic. I think they're brilliant. Um,
Yeah,
as
they're
it's
um
we've
they're
still
part of
got a
the
little while
reason I
to go.
started putting stuff in cabinets.
Oh,
They're
really?
so fragile. When they used
Yeah.
to take a shelf dive, like you knew it was over.
Oh
But
well.
once
I
they
mean,
fall,
we've got the
that's it.
NECA Back to the Future figures, and we've got four of those figures from NECA, the Back to the Future ones, and we've got the Michael J. Fox on the hoverboard, and in the end we just give up trying to get him balanced. We had him balanced. A car would go past, or a lorry would go down the road, and it would shake the ground, and it would fall over. Or you'd walk past it, and the thing would fall over.
Yeah,
And it was like, so we tried to stick the well, I tried sticking the hoverboard down on the cabinet shelf, and that worked for a little bit, and then it just fell flat. And you don't want these things broken, so you pay some good money for those things. So they are a ball ache to try and stand up for sure.
they are.
Definitely,
They are.
definitely. Right. So one last question then, as we still got a bit of time. What does your wife think of your collection, and does she sort of like chip in and not like? Does she have her own collection? Is she into that sort of stuff, or does she just solely leave it to you?
Well, she has her own collection. It's definitely not toys. She collects stuff like expensive vintage handbags from Louis
Yeah,
Vuitton
I
and
know the way you put
these type
expensive
of
in
things.
there. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and they are expensive. Like, we talk about paying high prices for toys, some of these bags. Oh, could have bought a couple of Unicrons.
yeah.
But she collects antique clocks. So sometimes if
Oh,
you come
okay.
into her house, you mentioned Back to the Future there. Sometimes you walk
Yeah,
into our house, and because we've so many kind of wind up old pendulum clocks, it sounds like Doc Brown's house when you come into
oh,
our
really?
house. You just hear tick tock, tick tock.
Awesome.
It's relaxing though. You get used to it. So look, yeah,
Yeah,
she has no problem with my collection. And look, she has her own space for her stuff as well. Like in a different part of the house, she'd have a room with a lot of her
yeah,
belongings in as well. She's she'd be a big fan of a lot of the pop cultural stuff that we'd be into. Like, she'd watch a lot of stuff that we would watch in terms of, Star Wars and
yeah,
things of that nature. Like, so
yeah.
She just was never a toy collector, I suppose. Just, you know, not too many
Yeah.
people are. We're a rare enough breed as it is. So, but yeah, look, she's no problem at all with it. Definitely not. In fact, Stuart, she has very generously offered, if I clear the stuff out of this room, she's actually going to paint this room for me. She's agreed
Wow.
to do that, you know, once I actually pull the thumb out
Wow.
and move all the stuff out. So I hate painting. It's one of my least favorite jobs to do
Yeah.
inside, like, you know. So yeah, look, you know, she's okay with it, you know. And look, if she's going to paint the collection room for
Awesome.
me, you know.
That's awesome. Well, we did this room out. I think it was it last year? I think we did it last year, and I hate doing the edges of the walls. So my wife always paints around the edges and does the cutting in and stuff like that, and then I just get the easy part with the roller and just splash it on everywhere. And I already had these like shelves, so I thought, well, I don't want to be spending more money on units and stuff like that. So we try and do it as not like as cheap as possible, but well, as cheap as possible. So I kept the shelves, and then I got some of these units, and now I'm looking at the shelves thinking, yeah, maybe I want to get the units. But the thing is, with that, I've got to take all the shelves down, fill the holes in, and then do the painting again. And I'm thinking, can I really be asked to do that? And the answer right now is no. I'm off in a couple of weeks, or a few weeks in August. I've got 2 weeks off. So, yeah,
Be a
I don't know.
project.
Well, yeah, but I don't know, because like you, I don't like painting, and there will be a lot of holes in the walls because these shelves, they take about 4 or 5 screws so they don't drop and fall. I mean, they don't look too bad, and then you'll get one shelf that's like sort of like this, and the other one's tilting forward. Then you've got to take it off, and then it's such it's a ball ache. It's easier to get the cabinets, but I don't know. Don't start me off, Mark. Don't start me off.
Oh, look, and like I know I'm
Right.
getting off easy without doing the painting, but it's still going to be a pain getting everything out of these
Yeah,
cabinets, moving everything away from the wall. Like there's so much stuff hanging on the walls now,
yeah,
and like
yeah,
it just
definitely.
then finding some place in the house to actually just keep everything, you know, relatively safe while we're getting it done.
Yeah,
But yeah, like yourself, if I've hopefully got a few days off work and get kind of cracking into it. And yeah, look, I could do with a spruce up. I've been living in this house now about 7 years, and
wow.
this room was never really touched. I just poured all the toys in. I didn't care about painting or doing nothing, like, you know. So
That's fair
it's
enough.
well
Yeah,
due a
yeah,
pain.
fair enough. I mean, I like the idea of doing stuff, and then I start doing it, and I'm like, oh, why did I start this? I just don't have the patience. I want it done just like that. Just can't even click my fingers.
Yeah,
But right, well, Mark, we shall call it a day there. But it has been
cool.
an absolutely interesting chat. It's been fantastic talking to you. You have an amazing collection, and like I said, I'm going to do an outro again with more music and stuff, showing the rest of your photos and the rest of your collection. Where can people find you on social media?
If you're looking for me anywhere, it'll most likely just be Instagram, but BobaHicks. I do have a Twitter account under the BobaHicks name as well. I rarely tweet anything. I usually just read whatever funny stuff Bob is tweeting about or whatever. Like, but yeah, I'm not that active on Twitter. But yeah, look, Instagram, if any of you are interested, and you know, yeah, that's where you'll find me. And if you are interested, just put in hashtag toy photography on Instagram if you want to see. Like I said, there's thousands of accounts out there that would really kind of blow your mind with some of the work you can find from just people all over the world with, you know, a lot bigger imagination than I have to make these things come to life. So I'd encourage anybody to go onto Instagram and check out the toy photography community.
Awesome stuff. Well, I shall leave a link to Mark's Instagram account on the description below. Well worth a look. Regardless of what Mark says, I think he's very talented with his photography. He's made some fantastic photos, so and some great pictures. So, Mark, once again, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, mate. Really, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Stuart.
Awesome stuff.
Love being here.
Okay.
Great. And loving what you're doing with your channel, loving everything you've been
Thank you,
putting
man.
out. So keep up the great work,
Appreciate
okay?
it. Thank you very much, man. Okay, guys. So
Good, man.
we shall see you in the next video. Take care, all. Thanks a lot now. Bye-bye.